And welcome. And let me let me just say that I couldn't even say hello to this guy before we went on because he came in during the opening. But let me just say welcome to Mr. Dustin Pari.
Happy to be here. Sorry for the last minute. Hello everyone. There's like this crazy storm going on outside, and I was trying to get home from the gym, and the lights are flickering, and like the traffic lights are out. There's floods. Kids are crying in the street, and I'm gonna be like candlelight, like trying to hotshot this thing, and thankfully, it's working for now at least.
So if you suddenly leave, it won't be because we've irritated you.
It's not because I'm offended, real deal. I'll tell you that. If nothing else, it's just because of power fluctuations.
All right.
Well, so because you came at the last moment, I haven't been able to introduce you to my team yet. So Lauren, Scott, Sam, and Haley, Mr. Dustin Pari.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you guys all too. How honored are you that you get to work with the real deal Mike Neal all the time?
Very honored, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's
God.
a pleasure.
He is
every
a
single
big
day.
deal. I love this guy. Like charming, like he's a benefit to society. He's endearing to all the people out there, kissing babies, holding doors for all people.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, God bless you.
Mike to a T. Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. It's a pleasure to always be with.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Thank you. Thank
I
you
like
for
that Scott says nothing. He's like, I will admit to nothing. I shall deny nothing. I just stay in the good graces.
Yeah, Scott doesn't really say anything anyways. So
Every team needs somebody like that.
there you
That's
go.
important. Yeah, indeed. I'm not that guy, but every team needs that guy.
So before we get into the topics of the day, what did you do to your shoulder?
So I kind of like to think it looks like, the thing that makes a stormtrooper like above the other stormtroopers. They usually have like the orange like pad.
Yeah, they had that.
But
They had that in the last three movies. They had like that little sash or whatever.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So I've been really trying to focus on the gym stuff because I want to be healthy enough to be around, hopefully, like, down the road. And in case the good people at television ever call me again, I want to look pretty. But I was doing really well, and I screwed up actually both of my rotator cuffs. But it looks really silly if you wear two of these, like a weird bra. So I just wear one after the gym because this is the worst side. And so I literally just got home, so I have to ice, and I get the protein shake, but then we got a cider on backup because that's how dedicated I am to my health. Yeah. Good times. But yeah, so nothing to worry about. We've been in physical therapy since April. We're finally back to normal with everything, but I still need to ice for like another 2 weeks. So yeah, good stuff.
Well, it's good to hear.
I'm crazy tonight because I started drinking this Alani energy drinks. This is not a paid sponsorship, but if you can find any Alani energy drinks, they have them at Target and stuff. They all have like tropical flavors. One's called Trippy Hippie. This is Tropsical. They have Hawaiian ice. It's so good. See, healthy, 0 sugar, 10 calories. If you melted Pez, like the Pez candy, if you melted that stuff down into a liquid and then made it cold, that's what you get with the Alani drinks. And let me tell you, it is a rush.
Apparently.
Yeah.
I appreciate you wanting to be here at 150%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I've got Minnesota Paracon coming up. When I get to that ParaUnity convention, I am going to destroy the place.
I don't know where to go from this. All right. Let's get into topics.
Sam, what's on your shirt?
Me?
Yeah.
This is from Ketchikan, Alaska.
Have you gone yourself, or somebody just get you the shirt?
No, somebody just got me the shirt. Unfortunately,
I want to go.
I would love to go. It's like
I've been to
an
Ketchikan
island up in Alaska, and you can only get there by cruise ship or float plane.
Nice.
So it's a pretty isolated place. So
or you could ride a polar bear. They're known for their swimming technique.
Yes, or that for
so,
sure.
Haley, did you get him the shirt, or was it someone?
No, I don't know who got him the shirt.
So you went there and you thought, screw Sam, I'm not getting him anything.
I don't think I even knew Sam when I went, but yeah, it was years ago.
I feel like we've talked about that before, that you've been to Ketchikan, but
Yeah,
I would love to go.
it's like the second rainiest city in America or something like that, and it
Wow.
did rain while I was there.
Good
So
time.
Well, I've been
Lived
to
up to
Phoenix,
its
if
name.
anybody cares.
that's very exciting.
I've been to Phoenix when it snowed. Like I sat on the tarmac for 2 hours. We pulled in and it snowed, and they're like, "Nothing we can do. We just have to wait this out for a bit." I was like, "Of course, I would arrive to Arizona to escape the New England winters, and it snows."
And it snows, yeah.
Yeah, good times. But Alaska is one of like the 4 or 5 states I haven't been to. Alaska, Hawaii. I can't seem to get like to the Northwest, like Oregon, Washington State, Montana.
Yeah.
I just can't get there. I want to, but Mike won't have a damn convention there, so I can't. There's no reason to go.
Shockingly though, I actually did contact Seattle before Vegas to see what their prices were. So
Yeah.
it could have happened.
Could have happened, but just like their coffee, it's all overpriced. That's why I'm a Dunkin' man.
That is true.
Indeed. Some other day.
A true New Englander, huh?
Yes, indeed. Indeed. Through and through.
All right. Who wants to go first tonight for their topic or question?
I choose Lauren.
Okay.
Wow.
All
You
right.
got it. Lauren does usually go first.
Let's go. All right. I'm ready.
I am a
Also,
fan
I
of
want.
the show, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, I want to shout out my aunt who is bringing my whole fan club here. Thank you, Auntie. I love you. I will talk to you in a little bit because I'm seeing her this weekend and I'm very excited. Okay. On to my question. In your personal opinion, do you believe that all hospitals are in some way haunted just because they have a lot of deaths associated with them, usually a lot of high stress and traumatic situations that happen inside the building? Do with that question what you will, but that is my question to the group.
Dustin, you go first.
All right. Very well, then. I would say that there's probably a pretty good chance that there's activity there. The idea that just somebody dies somewhere doesn't mean that there's spirits there, but I would think with the amount of energy that's always kind of put out in the place, like you touched upon. I work in healthcare myself. I was an EMT for many years prior to my office job. I did time at the hospital for a while. And to say that everyone's like haunted, like, I mean, there's a ton of people that die there. Not everyone's spirit is going to visit there or linger there for any amount of time. But just, I would say, if you're just looking across the board about the amount of time a hospital is open, the amount of people that go in there, the amount of people that are sick there, the amount of people that work there, there's at least chance for some residual type of activity, if not intelligent activity, to be there. I don't think that there's going to be like a portal for demons like on the third floor or any of that nonsense. But I do think there's probably a good chance for there to be activity. And out of all the places that I've been globally, the Clark Air Force Base Hospital in the Philippines is still my favorite location in terms of it's the number one place I've been and the only place I've been where everything that they said was going to happen actually happened. I mean, you guys know, you go on cases, they give you that laundry list of stuff to look for. Yep. And like 2 days later, you're like, we got footsteps. That was it, But so the fact that all the places I've been, a hospital is the number one place for activity, I think, doesn't mean everyone's haunted, but I do think there's a pretty good chance of getting something, there.
I was going to say something very similar to that. Obviously, you can't guarantee that every place you go is going to be haunted, but yeah, just the amount of time people spend at hospitals and the fact that there's pretty much always somebody in there 24 hours a day, that just increases your chances for energy to still be there. And of course, I would say it might even be more of a chance for like providers that are there, like nurses and, doctors and any other healthcare workers that are there to maybe remain there because so much of their energy was spent on devoting a lot of their time in there. But yeah, I think they're probably some of the most active places out there. I mean, we haven't been to any proper hospitals yet. Looking to sometime, yes, yet. But yeah, I would think they would be some of the most active, not necessarily active, but some of the most haunted places that you could find.
Yeah, I would agree that I think they probably have a pretty good chance of being haunted considering the level of energy there. Just people are always running around in hospitals. There's always something happening. and the amount of deaths there. But I do like what Dustin pointed out. I think it's important to remember, just because there's a lot of deaths in a place doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be haunted. I know we've discussed a lot on this show that we think there may be some aspect of choice for spirits in terms of where they end up haunting. Basically, maybe we've assumed that a lot of them probably choose a place that they want to stay, if they're able to. So I imagine that, personally, if you're dying of illness in a hospital, that's probably not where I would want to stay. So that's maybe my one thought, where I'd push back a little bit on thinking that they're always, every single one is going to be super haunted. But I do like what Sam said, that, for a lot of people, doctors and nurses, like, work is their life, and that's what they love to do, and helping people. So they might stick around that hospital because they want to continue doing that in the afterlife and continue being around it.
Scott.
With all the years I spent in healthcare, I didn't see a whole lot at hospitals, but I think that they tend to be haunted. The most haunted part of the hospitals that I've been in, I think, is the morgue. I've told you, some of you, about this before, about times I've been in the morgue when I just felt like I was drowning in spirit activity. I mean, there was a density in the feeling in the morgue that's far stronger than anywhere else in the hospital. But yes, I think they are haunted. As a hospital worker, I didn't see much of anything. As a patient, I saw something. I saw somebody walking through my room that I could see through, but so I guess that's my answer.
Gotcha. So I wouldn't go so far as to say every hospital is haunted. A good portion of them, I would probably say that's correct. I think the one thing that we should take into consideration is the ratio between intelligent haunting and residual, because you're going to have tons of residual in that thing. You can't have that many deaths. The emergency room, Dustin, you would have seen that, as an EMS. You can't have all of that stuff and not leave some sort of imprint over time. Right. No, I agree with you, Haley, on I don't necessarily think that spirits would choose to be there, especially if they died there, not so much the workers, but like the patients. So I can't see why they would be like, yeah, this is a good place, I'll just stay here. I think it's probably more of they're dead and they don't know it, or they don't realize it, or refuse to realize it. I know that there are a lot of hospitals that have a lot of claims of like one aggressive spirit, and like that's it. And it's always like out of a janitor's closet that used to be a room, that kind of thing. And chances are doesn't know that they're dead, in their dead state. I haven't used that term in a long time. Their death state, that's what it's called. So, I mean, I think there's probably going to be a lot of activity in hospitals. I think it's just important to try to ascertain what kind of activity you're actually looking at. Lauren, you didn't get a chance to answer.
Yeah, I mean, the reason that I asked the question is I was scrolling through Reddit, as we do now, looking at the paranormal posts.
That's what we do now. There's a lot of stories on Reddit, but somebody was asking about hospitals, and I'm like, that's a really cool topic. We briefly touched on it. So I wanted to ask and just see what y'all thought. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I've talked about this before, just that like a place has so much energy going into it, whether it be positive or negative. People are having really traumatic experiences in hospitals, and that energy's got to go somewhere.
So it would make a lot of sense if there were especially a lot of residual hauntings in hospitals. It would also make a lot of sense to me that a lot of those can be brushed off just because there's always people running around a hospital. So you can't always say, oh, I know nobody's there. Nobody's down that hallway. It has to be something else. You can't really say that in a working hospital. So it's hard to judge if a hospital that's still in operation actually is haunted unless you, like Scott, see something, or you are very sure that it wasn't just somebody else, like a nurse walking down the hall or another patient that's actually there.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Lauren. That's what I was thinking, when Scott was mentioning about there being a lot of activity in the morgue. The morgue is probably the one place in an active hospital where, yeah, obviously, the bodies are there and people sometimes have to go there to identify bodies. So there could be a lot of emotional energy that's released there. But it's also probably the quietest place in the hospital. There's not a lot of hustle and bustle. There's not people running around. Like, no one's coding in the next curtain, So it's probably the one place that gives you a little more opportunity to also kind of feel that energy and to observe what's going on. But then also, like Scott was mentioning, being in there, there's also that opportunity to stamp in a lot of energy too. And Mike O'Neill, I love you to death, man, but I'll never agree to that people don't know they're dead thing. Like,
I didn't say I believed it. I said
that was your excuse. You can't point it as this is a possibility, and then
you don't believe there's such a thing as a death state.
No. I think that so. In like some major world religions and some of the interactions that I've had with people, like on a sample scale of like emails and things, I feel like there's like a 2-week transition period where people are kind of transitioning out of this life into the next life, and they kind of visit places, they visit people, they show up, in homes, favorite places, that kind of thing. But I just, what it is for me? It's the terminology of not knowing they're dead, because that's M. Night Shyamalan, that's TV movie created nonsense. Like, you haven't had to urinate in a while. There's been no sexual activity. You haven't had to change your clothes. You haven't had to go in traffic. Like, I think that it's over at some point, although that could also, describe a lot of people's actual lives. I think you would realize when it's actually over. So I don't think people linger around because they don't know. I think that I think it was Haley that mentioned, like, I think that people do have an opportunity to visit places. I always think of like Harry Potter, like the Portkey thing, like there's certain places that were so integral to your life, to your energy, so important that you choose to visit them from time to time. Like, that's my thing with haunted objects too. Like, I love when people are like, oh, this is a haunted demon, and it decided that it's going to attach itself to this Santa hat. You're a multi-level, interdimensional being of evil. You're like, yeah, I'm going to sit in this doll all day. Once in a while, I'll fall over. Who the hell would do that? It doesn't make any logical sense, But like the idea that my grandma's not attached to the rocking chair that she used to like, but maybe some of her residual energy could be there, or maybe she does show up there from time to time. But if we throw the rocking chair into the town dump, that doesn't mean grandma goes with it. So I think that, like Haley was saying, like, maybe, I don't know why you would choose a hospital to be your place outside of maybe if you work there, because working in the medical profession, it's just kind of integral for a lot of people, an internal thing that they want to help. So maybe there's still that lingering aspect of checking in on that kind of place. But somebody that died in room 302 is not like, what really was sweet? Room 302. I'm going to make that one of my 5 port keys. Like, I don't think that would happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, I go on tangents, and again, we don't all have to agree or read from the same hymnal, but it just, when people say they don't know they're dead, it's one of my pet peeves, Mike O'Neill, and I think you knew that. I think that's why you brought it up. Lord knows I've been on your dang show long enough. Here's to you, by the way. This is an unfiltered Down East pumpkin cider leftover from last season in my own private stash. Drink responsibly, but enjoy yourself in life.
Thank you for that promo.
If I say enough stuff, sometimes I get free crap. Today I got contacted by Trolley gummy worms because I wrote about them in a couple of tweets. Guess who's getting the new Trolley releases? This guy. That's what you
That's
get.
awesome.
Paracon. We have some Trolley lovers in this team, so you got.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can get some out to the team. I don't know. I'll do my best. I'm new there. I'm new with the Trolley people, but I'm excited. I'm excited.
You got your foot in the door.
Yeah.
So-
Well, they've got these multi-piece gummies now. They're like aliens with little ships, and they're taking over MySpace. And there's actually links to their MySpace pages. It's mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing that they're using MySpace.
Yeah.
Because that's where
It
gummy
is.
aliens would obviously choose to go. Full disclosure, that's what the government's going to tell us.
Okay, I want to go back to your disagreement.
Okay.
Because let me ask you this. What happens
Hold on
though?
1 second. I love
No,
you. I feel real bad. I don't want to do when other people were talking, but my lighting, it started to dim because I think there's things going on. So I wanted to adjust my lighting because I want to be a professional like everybody else. Everyone else is so well lit, looks pretty. I've got nothing in my background because I got home late, and I apologize, but you deserve at least decent lighting. So please, your rebuttal, real deal.
just a question or a proposal.
Yeah, I'm
what
already
ha-
moved. Thank you.
what happens if yes, I know. What happens if they don't necessarily understand or realize the passage of time? What happens if every time they are able to show up, it's just another second or another minute to them?
No, that doesn't make sense, Mike. It's completely possible. Completely possible. I mean, you're not wrong. You might be right. I don't think so.
I'm Billy Joel.
I don't think so. You might be crazy. That's what I'm looking for. Let's sing songs together.
No.
I got yelled at one time. John Tenney and I were doing an event at Fort Wayne in Detroit, Michigan, and we thought it'd be fun to raise the vibration. At the end of every investigation segment, when our group would change, we would sing a Christmas carol, even though it was like mid-August or whatever. And people complained about it. Like, you're not taking it seriously. I'm like, why? Because I'm not like trying to invoke demons and chant. And like, we're just trying to raise the vibration, invite some good spirits out. But you don't see that on TV. You know what you see, Mike? Spirits that don't know they're dead.
No, you don't.
That's right, you don't, because that's nonsense.
Wow.
Next question.
That is interesting. That is interesting though, because we've used that technique in our investigations, using music as a technique
good.
to try to get some activity, and it worked in one of them. Maybe we still have to test it out if it makes an actual difference, but that is one of the things that I'm interested in for sure.
I love it.
In fact, Dustin, I should send you the 2.5-minute video of me trying to play the accordion Ashmore Estates.
This sounds beautiful.
Oh,
I would love to see it.
It's magic.
No.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounded
Yeah,
like.
that's
Too.
exactly what it's like.
Franco Capaldi, the first kid I've ever met from Italy. He went to elementary school with me. First grade talent show. He shows up playing the accordion. This other girl, Jessica DeFrancis, is tap dancing. And I'm thinking, I've got no gimmick. I have no talent. I don't know what you people expect me to do. And that's when I realized life was going to be hard, Mike.
That's a really good sign of that, too.
Yeah, no, it was like right in the beginning. Life's gonna be a kick in the pants. Get it together, kid. And I was like, I don't know, I've got good hair. Like maybe that could be my thing. You know, and that was a dicey gamble because I'm gonna be 44, but it's still there. But Sam, I love the music thing. I used it a lot even when we were filming with the shows. I use it a lot in my personal investigations. They couldn't show it with the show because of copyright stuff. Yeah. But I would play it before. So I would try to play music that spoke to the time period of the people that were supposed to be there, in effort to try to make a more inviting environment for them to come forward. Because for me, like, I love music so much, and like it takes me back to where I was when I first heard it, and I just find it to be such a powerful thing. And I think it's nice to kind of raise the vibration of things. And like some of the old warships and stuff, like you play music from like the 40s and the 50s, and like you get really good interaction with it. And I've also set up like the plasma ball kind of thing. I've set that up and asked to see if they could try to make it go to the beat of the music, keep it away far enough from the speaker so you're not getting like electrical interference with it. And I did that at it was a hotel where unfortunately the young lady that was visits there, I don't like to ever say anyone's trapped because I don't buy into that either for myself. Okay for other people. But the idea was that she unfortunately died by suicide. And everybody that I was there with was all gloom and doom with it. Like, are you sad? Are you still depressed? I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting depressed. Let's change this up. And I was like, okay, she was alive in like the early 90s. Like, let's play some early 90s music. Like, let's see if she was a boy band girl or like a grunge girl, and like try to do that stuff. And all of a sudden, like, you could feel like the atmosphere lift. Like, everyone started feeling better because they started to change the way that they thought. And then we started to mess with the plasma ball thing. And it was really cool. And I've had great success with using music as that tool to try to set the tone. So it doesn't work all the time, just like everything else. That's kind of what the field is. But I applaud your efforts for doing it. Not that I'm anybody special, but I love when people do that kind of stuff because I think it's really important.
That's why you're an honorary member of our team, Dustin.
Oh, do I get a t-shirt?
If you pay for it.
I'm not going to get one from Alaska because Haley doesn't give those out. But maybe
not just to anyone.
Apparently,
I'll give you the team discount.
All right, that's probably going to be twice the normal price.
No, I would never do that to you.
You're sweet. You're getting a kiss in Minnesota, whether you like it or not.
Well, I won't. So there you go. Dustin, why don't you go with your topic or question?
A question?
A topic or question to pose to the crew. I told you how this works.
Yeah, I know. But you know how my brain works, so everything's kind of wonky.
Yes, which is why I think I mentioned it twice.
Thank you very much. That is very fair play, Mr. O'Neill. All right, let's see. Old school technique that maybe you haven't seen on any TV shows, but maybe something that you've read about or something that you wanted to know more about. Like, what is like an investigation technique that you like that's not like, another app or another talk to my flashlight, like kind of thing? Like what a non-tech type of investigation or communication method.
Nice.
Spin the bottle and see who it lands on. There's no really bottle.
Think about it.
One of you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I'll go because I kind of have although mine is a little techie.
We can make it a little techie.
So the method that I really like and have had great success with even recently is the analog tape recorder. Nobody uses that on TV anymore. It's all digital, or it's all Spirit Box, or it's camcorder, or whatever. But nobody on TV anymore uses the old, just like the push the buttons down and let the cassette tape roll and record. So I've been wanting to buy one forever, and I just have not pulled the trigger, which is surprising. But yeah, so that is my technique that I think we should use more, and I really need to look into that.
There's something I think about like imprinting with that, like there's something about it. I kind of feel like the digital way, yeah, do we still get some answers and some EVPs? Sure. But I kind of feel like I never really care for the classification system because it's, it's not universal. But I would say in my time of investigating, I've heard clearer and better EVPs on analog than I have on digital. I've heard some good ones on digital, but if I compare it apples to apples, I think I've heard more clearer ones on analog tape.
I actually could play it now if everybody wanted to hear it, but at an investigation that we were at recently, like in the last year, but it's confidential place. Part of it is a chapel. And so we played Amazing Grace by Alan Jackson. And we had a digital recorder going. I think we might have had 2 digital recorders going. And we had an analog. And on the analog, you can hear, Alan Jackson singing Amazing Grace. But in the background, you can hear like an entire church thing singing along, but a different song. It's not even Amazing Grace.
Right.
But you can hear that clearly did not show up on the digital. That's so cool. I mean, it even, I'll send it to you. You'll love it. Yeah. But I wonder how many like actual EVPs we might be able to catch and that we miss because we don't go old school because all we use is this modern technology.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
I mean, the analog tape recorder is what I was going to say. Like, I mean, legitimately, that's what I want to use the most because, I mean, as like a musician and like a fan of music, I've always been fascinated of how like in the past they could like record such like complicated albums on tape and stuff like that, and like the whole actual process of getting like actual sound waves imprinted on a piece of plastic and have that be reproduced is just very cool in terms of just like technology wise. And I don't have a lot of experience with it. The investigation Mike was talking about was the first time I had investigated with one. And I mean, the results were there from the start of getting that like frankly incredible EVP in the chapel there. So I definitely want to experiment with them, like even a reel to reel, like a just big dinosaur of a tape recorder, just to see maybe how even different types of tape recorders could be different.
I know a guy in Rhode Island that has a reel to reel one that he still uses with an external mic on investigation, and it's just cool, you know. And it's interesting too because we're not that far removed from analog, but yet people are already forgetting about it, you know?
Yeah.
And even musician Motley Crue recently released a box set of cassette tapes. However, the box set lid had a heavy magnet in it and demagnetized a lot of the tapes. So now there's a recall out on their limited edition box set because you can't actually listen to some of the music.
Oh my God.
Right? Talk about embarrassing. Like
Apparently product testing did not happen.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I remember magnets are bad for these. Good job, kid.
That's the Captain Picard face palm right there.
Indeed. Good stuff.
Any other guys want to?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, you go ahead, Haley.
Okay. So I did think about analog. I also think that's interesting. And something I'd like to use more because I automatically thought of that really interesting EVP that we found from the, confidential location. But another sort of non-techie item that I think I would like to experiment with more is just bringing different sorts of trigger objects to investigations. So whether that is, a deck of cards or a stuffed animal, I would think it would be really cool to maybe bring like a record player and see if playing something on vinyl changes the effect versus playing it off of your phone. So yeah, that's something I would like to experiment with more. I think maybe, if you're bringing things that are older, perhaps you might be able to interact with certain spirits versus others that maybe don't really know what modern, I don't want to like insult their intelligence by saying that they wouldn't know what those are, but they might not be as familiar with it, like a cell phone.
Yeah, that makes sense. I did a case recently in New Jersey, and they had this crazy old music box that I've never seen before. It had like a big silver disc that looked like a record and rotated like a record, but it had like the little music box like things like, whatever they're called. I'm not a music box aficionado. Whatever the little things are that like make it chirp and play the things, like that's how it worked. I had no idea this existed, it was just kind of cool. But like maybe a spirit from that time would be more familiar with that than, hey, I'm going to play you a song from your time period on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of works on two levels, like as a trigger object, something familiar, but then also like Sam was talking about before, like bringing music in to try to tie in time and space and stuff. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Lauren, you try to talk now for like 30 seconds.
Okay, I could do 30 seconds.
No. I meant you've been interrupted for like 30 seconds.
No, it's okay. It's all interesting stuff. I want to hear what you have to say, Dustin. So by all means. Yes.
You invite me on the show and then I can't talk? What kind of deal is this? I have input. I like to talk to the young generation, Mike. I'm getting old like you.
So I have always been interested and fascinated by all the theories and superstitions around mirrors and how they can, like, I know Ghost Asylum uses them a lot in their traps, so to quote unquote. I don't totally understand how it relates just because, again, there's so many theories. There's nothing substantial that you can say, we know this for a fact, which I guess is true of anything in the paranormal, really. But I've always just been interested in how mirrors can affect spiritual activity and if a lot of them are used as portals, or if it really isn't different than any other surface or anything like that. So that would be my non-technological thing that I'd be interested in learning a little bit more about.
Hey, Mike, can I make a comment, or should I? Oh, okay, good. Thank you. So Lauren, I love that you mentioned that, because that was the mirrors themselves were actually what actually spawned my newest lecture that I do called Once Upon Death and Dying. Like, the logo itself has an old funeral parlor mirror in it for the lecture. And in the lecture, it's a death positive thing, because I feel like people are afraid to talk about death, or we talk about it in a gloom and doom way. Even us in the paranormal, but for everybody, I wanted them to feel more comfortable to talk about death and knowing, there's different ideas about the afterlife, but there is more to this, But the thing that triggered the whole idea was my wife asked me, if I knew why they covered mirrors when people passed away. And so I got into that explanation. And then I started thinking about, like you said, all the other weird superstitions that go into around mirrors, and like the way we move bodies out the door, especially in the old Victorian times. There's a ton of them, because there's very little knowledge about medicine and a lot of fear about religion. So there's so many cool things that come together. I tried a scrying mirror for the first time ever with the Haunt Me group on one of their videos, investigation I did, Belvoir Winery. It was really awesome to use, So I love talking about these things, because I kind of feel like they don't get enough credit, and people don't think about them enough, So very cool. Sorry, Mike, I'm all done. Good, Scott. Let's hear from Scott.
I guess the only thing that came to my mind was going extreme old school to the seance. So I've used that in the past, and we never do that on an investigation, but I have done it in the well, technically before any of you were born. I did that. But that is something that worked for me. I've tried scrying, and that I could never get that to work. Another extreme old school thing was shamanic journeying. I've attempted that. I attempted it during an investigation, but nothing happened during the investigation. So,
Scott, what is that? Is that like an out of body type thing, or what is shamanic journeying?
It's not exactly out of body, but it's where the soul of the shaman connects directly with the spirit world. Okay, it's a direct connection. Mm-hmm. So that you're actually speaking with the spirit world. You're in an altered state of consciousness, where you actually meet with the spirits and speak with them and get have a dialogue with them.
Oh.
Okay. So. Okay. So I guess that's my answer. And I lost my train of thought there. But.
That's all right. Well, thanks for. I didn't know much about that, so I appreciate the opportunity to learn from you on that. So it sounds like mediumship, but to like an elevated level where you're actually one-on-one, like into the spiritual realm.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. It's kind of a step beyond mediumship.
Yeah.
Where you actually enter into the spirit realm and communicate directly with the spirits.
Sweet. Anybody else have anything to add to Dustin's question? No? All right. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. So in the context of like basically just the paranormal field in general, there's a lot of people that try to take advantage of the fact that this is a field where it's not always based in science and fact, and try to fake and try to hoax things for money and also notoriety. There's a couple, there's many well-known hoaxes and things like that. I want to know what your guys' favorite example of a hoax is in terms of cryptids, spirits, UFOs, aliens, stuff like that. What is your favorite example of like a famous hoax that really interests you?
I know mine. Okay, I'll go first while everybody else is thinking. I really like what is it, in the 70s? Probably one of the most famous photos of the Loch Ness Monster, of Nessie.
Be mine. Now I gotta come up with another one.
Yeah, you do.
All right.
You know, and people thought that this was real for decades. And then finally the guy that did it explained, came out and explained how he did it, what they did, why they did it. And it is completely faked. But it fooled people, like I said, for decades. And if he hadn't come out, people would probably still say it's real.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that good. I mean, they did a phenomenal job on it. So I'd have to say that that's probably my number one hoax.
That was the toy submarine with the wooden carving, right?
Yeah.
Attached to the surgeon photo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
that one. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nessie, I think, is like one of like, I don't know, it depends what you're into, but definitely like top 3 cryptids, right? Like Bigfoot's kind of your big guy, Mothman's up there, Nessie, like they're kind of the holy trinity of the weird cryptid world.
Yeah, I'd probably say that they have the most merch. They have the most merchandise after them. I mean, that's how we
Most capital.
Yeah, that's how we level cryptids.
Yeah.
How much merchandise they sell.
Maybe it's a local thing, but I wish there was more of like, search for the Loch Ness Monster shows. Like I would watch more of that. I kind of feel like there's a ton of ghost stuff. There's a Bigfoot thing or two, but like Nessie gets nothing, and you know where she's supposed to be. Like, let's just go hang out there.
The funny thing is, just a really quick story. A friend of mine, everybody here knows of him. A couple of them know him personally, but he's going to be at Unity as well. Doug Hychek. He was the producer of Monster Quest, and he had an idea for like a documentary where they were going to go out to the Loch Ness with like 22 different boats and all kinds of sonar, and just sonar the entire lake all at once, and then kind of do a documentary about it.
But I remember I was so excited about this TV special. They did it in the 80s, but it was pretty much fish finders. So it wasn't quite what you need.
Yeah, no.
With today's sonar, that would have been really awesome. That'd be cool to see.
And the crappy thing was they had it all set up, and then like the day before they were going to do this, the network was like, yeah, you know what, we're just not going to do it, and canceled the whole thing.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
We could have had it. But Dustin, then just a real quick question: do you think, let's just say for the sake of argument, that Nessie's real? His main place is the Loch Ness. Do you think that he's always there, or do you think there may be some underground waterways and stuff where he can escape and go everywhere?
Yeah, there's supposedly like some caverns or whatever at the edge of the loch in certain parts. I don't know. We started to get into like the Bigfoot, interdimensional time traveler, space traveler thing. Listen, and this is becoming a promo for my lectures. How convenient. In my Times of High Strangeness lecture, we go A through Z of all these weird. Yes, thank you, Mike. We go A through Z of all the weird cryptid creatures and energies and stuff like that. And I talk about Nessie because Nessie was one of like the first things I was interested in as a kid, like aliens, ghosts, Nessie. And I remember seeing that special and being excited, and then seeing the fish finders and then not finding her and talking about maybe there's caverns and stuff. For me, it's more important to have the belief of Nessie, because I don't want to live in a world without magic. I don't want to live in a world where we don't think there could be something more, because I kind of feel like that belief is a positive thing. And the idea that there could be more, and not just accepting this as our reality, even if Nessie isn't real, or she's not currently real, she's not some old plesiosaur that died and somehow we didn't see the carcass. The idea that we're thinking of grander things, of loftier ideas, of other beings, I think that's good, because this world, sometimes we start to feel really big. We start to feel like we know everything. We can explain everything, and it's a day-to-day job kind of thing. It's nice to feel small sometimes. It's nice to look up at the stars and think, yeah, there's so much more out there. Space is constantly expanding. Where the hell is it expanding onto? Where does that go? Now we talk a lot about aliens and UFOs more, and it's like, I kind of feel like they were talking about like the Nessie sightings were dropping. I was like, well, yeah, because no one's sitting there looking at the lake anymore. Everyone just walks around like this, and she's not here, you know? So it's important for us, I think, to still believe in things. And, you know, even if some of the things turn out not to be what we're hoping them for, it doesn't hurt to have a positive belief that's not hurting anybody or harming anybody within its own little structure and ideas. And that's all I have to say about that.
Who wants to go next? I mean, for their cryptid.
Does it have to be a cryptid?
No.
No, just hoax.
anything
I'm sorry.
paranormal.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Just a hoax. You're right.
I always think of the crop circles that have been faked. I believe that there were quite a few in England that it was discovered like it was like a pair of drinking buddies that were just out like doing random stuff in farmers' fields and making these like big intricate designs. And yeah, I've never been totally convinced by crop circles, and that obviously didn't really help. So that would probably be my biggest hoax that sticks out in my mind, other than the Loch Ness picture that everybody knows. But yeah, crop circles would be my answer.
Yeah, they. I'm sorry, Haley. Go ahead. I thought you were about to say something.
No, it's okay. I don't really have much to add, honestly, because I can't really think of many other major hoaxes that I know of other than Loch Ness Monster. I guess the only what came to mind for me immediately is not famous, and it's like a stretch on being a hoax. It's just like hoax. It's like a fake hoax. But I just think of the Mystic Lake lights, and
yeah.
The UFO show.
that it's a
That was
UFO,
so
but it's
funny.
just the casino down the down the street from my house. So
okay,
it's funny.
Dustin, I want to explain this to you because obviously you wouldn't know what we're talking about. So the very first episode,
I have heard of it, but I don't know about your episode tie-in.
So the very first episode of Paranormal Caught on Camera, somebody sent in a video and they played it in the Shakopee, Minnesota Walmart parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the camera was at the air, up in the air in the clouds or whatever, and there was a perfect circle of lights going around. And obviously the cameraman, whoever had the camera, was like, what are those? I don't understand what those are. What are we looking at? And naturally all of the experts, including your big buddy Brian, was like, wow, yeah, those lights are amazing, and I don't really know what those are. Well, there's a casino like 5 minutes from the Walmart that it's called Mystic Lake. It's a Native American thing. So what they do is they do a reverse TP of lights. Mm-hmm. And that was their lights.
That's the base of it. Yeah.
That was the casino lights up in the flipping sky, which anybody in Minnesota would know. And to see it on a paranormal show being talked about, like, that's kind of freaky. I don't know what that. Everybody knows what those are. It's like, don't you do any research?
Yeah, I saw it on Twitter afterwards. I'm like, well, I guess if you're showing the video to people that aren't there, like, how are they supposed to know? It's like, I'm just showing you. And that was always my problem when people are like, can you take a look at this photo? I'm like, well, I can, but I have no idea about like what's outside that house, what's outside that window, what's behind you. So, I mean, it's whatever you're telling me you think it is, because I'm not there to tell you anything different.
I know.
That's tough.
But again, shouldn't you do some research?
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
What's also funny about that is just like when I first moved down to Prior Lake, I fell for the same thing when I was in middle school though. Like I was just like, what are those? And then finally I realized like, oh, that's because I drove past the casino and you can, on a foggy day, you can see the beams going up in the sky. I'm like, oh, that's what that is.
Right.
So it's not hard to figure it out. It's really not.
But again, like you need to be there, right? Like you need to know the location. You can't just see like a random video and be like, well, yeah, this is definitely that. Because I mean, how are you supposed to know? Like they asked me to do, and I did like a thing for the Queen Mary sometime last year. And I was like, they're showing videos and talk about experiences they have there. I'm like, I've never been on the boat. So I can just tell you from watching the video what I think it might be, but I've never stepped foot on the boat. So how am I supposed to know what's there?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Scott, would you like to go next, sir?
Okay. I guess my favorite or least favorite, depending on how you look at it, hoax is one that so many people still believe is real. That's the Amityville horror, the Amityville house haunting. As I think the guy's name was Defio, who murdered his family there. After he was convicted
DeFeo,
and
yeah.
went to prison, Defeo.
Yep.
And eventually the guy's lawyer came out and said, yeah, I had this idea that I might be able to get him a new trial or get him off if I got like some kind of thing like he was possessed by the devil or something. So I got together with the Lutzes. We came up with this whole thing based on the book and movie The Exorcist. And we came up with this whole story. And the judge didn't fall for it, but everybody else in the world did.
The judge didn't fall for it. Man, the one person he needed to.
Yeah. But
what is? I'm sorry, go ahead.
And the Warrens did fall for it, because they went into the house and said, "Oh, this place is there's a demon in here. We got to do an exorcism." And the lawyer's going, we made it up.
What do you think about the Amityville, Dustin? Do you think it's real?
So I've never been to location, but I was in Texas drinking beers at a bar with the Lutz kid, and it was at what was the name of the hotel down there in Texas we're at? It was where Teddy Roosevelt got the Rough Riders together and everything. So I make this historic location with Jeff Belanger and I can't remember his first name now, the son. But Belanger and I sitting there and like Lutz is having drinks with us and we're talking about it. And he's like, yeah, he's like, he didn't think it was anything to do with the house either. Like, at least according to our conversation, he seemed to think like the father was a little, the stepfather, whatever, was a little messed up. But like, he didn't buy into all the stuff himself. And I just remember talking to Belanger. I'm like, do you believe that we're here at this hotel just drinking beer with the kid from the Amityville house? Like, this is like the real moment, like, because you grow up hearing the story and knowing the legend. It's like, oh, and yeah, here we are, just doing this thing now, so it's odd. But yeah, I've never had the chance to go there, but so many of these things take on a life of their own, they become bigger than what the reality of it was, but I don't know. And for me, for my favorite fake thing, and there's so many of them, but and I'm not John Tenney, so I don't remember every name of every person who ever took a UFO photo. God bless them. But one of the hubcap photos of like a UFO, but it was just a hubcap that they threw in the air and took a photo of. But people bought it for the longest time. Like, yeah, this is again, you're not there. You don't know. This looks, I don't know. We don't know what UFOs technically look like. We're told they were round silver discs in the sky. The photos of a round silver disc in the sky. I have to trust the guy that took the photo, but it was a hubcap. But it's like, it's just crazy. Like, you look at it, you're like, oh, yeah, I can see that now too, So it's one of those things. But I don't know. It's sad. Like, I always, I use the Fox sisters as an example. Like, when, over in Hydesville, New York, like, we're using rapping and tapping to communicate. Is it something we can still use to communicate? Yeah, they use it in seances and stuff. I've used it. It works. But then we go back and forth because, like, people get involved. They want to make money off the paranormal, which I get. Like, I mean, I've been on television. I do the conventions. Like, it's something you can do. But I feel like we never get to where we need to be with talking about the bigger picture stuff because the people that fake the things end up going way over the top with stuff. And it's so obvious to anybody who actually investigates. And so we kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. If you're not familiar with the paranormal, you're like, oh, it must all be garbage because this was fake, That's why I always just try to get people to focus on like the spiritual side of it, regardless of your belief system. Knowing that there's more to life, that there's a spiritual aspect to life and the afterlife, I think that's the most important thing. It's really unfortunate that some of these hoaxes and stuff like rip that idea away from people, I think.
Sam, you didn't get to give yours.
I mean, mine was the same Nessie photo.
It was Loch Ness.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at an article and like before the show was starting, just reading like the history of it. And like, this black and white photo that's like very blurry and out of focus is just like to a T every single photo of any cryptid ever is just out of focus bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, and you're just like, what am I supposed to discern from this? Like, there's this thing sticking out of the water that proves there's a dinosaur living in Loch Ness. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. But I love that photo because it just has a certain energy to it that I like, and I like the story behind it of where I literally just read this just now that apparently the whole hoax was devised to cover up another hoax that was happening.
The hippo footprints.
Yep, exactly. So it was to diverge the public to something else to cover another thing, which of course didn't work because journalism is too good,
right?
And it uncovers everything. But I just think it's amazing that every single piece of evidence from a cryptid is always just bullshit, blurry footage or a really out of focus photo.
Yep. But yeah, we can see the rings on Saturn and 4K, 8K, perfect view. But you can't pull out a cell phone and take 20 yards away from Bigfoot a clear photo.
You know what I always like? There's one Bigfoot cast. There's always one footstep. Like, should there be a path? Like, did he just like put one foot down really heavy here, and the rest of his walkway there was nothing? Yeah. Like, there's going to be multiple footprints, right?
Maybe we have it wrong. Maybe
he's got one foot and he just hops really far.
I was just going to say, maybe Bigfoot is the proper word. Nobody calls him big feet.
He's just got one foot.
Yeah, maybe he's like got one foot.
Yeah,
and he just hops.
We have solved the mystery.
No, we just made another one.
Yeah, that's good. Bigfoot also doesn't know he's dead, but that's okay.
Bigfoot's not dead. Don't be a douche canoe, Pari. That's all I gotta say.
So, I love you too, buddy.
Well, you want to do one more?
Yeah, let's do one more.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, who wants to go?
I can.
Sure.
Okay. So mine isn't maybe super related to paranormal, but it's still interesting. It could be paranormal. I don't know. But I wanted to kind of get your guys' thoughts, if you have any, on like the Roanoke kind of mystery with the lost colony that went missing. It's something that's always been really interesting to me. I haven't, done a YouTube deep dive on that one yet. I really should. But yeah, I'm just curious if you guys have kind of like a theory that you like, or if you've read much about it, or, do you think it could be paranormal somehow? Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
I mean, I don't think it was aliens, like some people believe. I think at that point in the history of this country, or just the history of European colonization of North America, there's so many variables that can be at play there for people to disappear without a trace. Like there's no one there. B, nobody's documenting everything that happens. And like, who knows? Maybe something happened where they all wanted to get out and they all hopped on a boat to go further down the coast, and a storm came in and killed all of them, and they got swept away in the ocean. Obviously, that's all conjecture. We don't know what happened. The weird thing about it is like how so many people disappeared without a trace over a certain span of time. So it is fascinating, but I just think there's so much room for natural explanation there. Obviously, it's really interesting to think about how it could have happened and stuff like that. I don't think it's paranormal at all, because just in that time, so many things can happen to you. Like, you're in the like mostly open space of North America. Like, anything can happen, is what I'm saying.
I kind of always felt like the most logical explanation is probably the most factual one, and the fact that there were other warring factions around at the time. You leave, you come back, those people aren't there, but there's been an expanse of time since you had left. I think the most logical thing is, they could have just left because of problems locally, or they could have been killed. So I kind of would tend to think the same thing, Sam. Like I kind of feel like the most logical explanation is probably the correct one. It doesn't mean something else couldn't have happened, but I think in terms of that, that's probably it. But I agree, Haley. I always thought it was something that's fascinating. I remember the first time reading about it, in grade school, and thinking, what is this all about? Like, people just go missing? Like, this is because you hear stories about that, like footprints out in the snow or whatever in the Great North, and then all of a sudden people just go missing. There's spots in certain forests and stuff where people normally go missing in national state parks, and people can get into ley lines and the idea of like portals and this, that, and the other. It's like, I don't know, maybe the aliens take people up and not just cows. Like, who the heck knows? But I think also we always have to think the logical thing. It's an early time. As Sam said, things aren't documented all the time, back then. So quite possibly they either just skipped town or were murdered. So either way, it's kind of sad, but maybe not. Maybe they went to a wonderful place and everything's happy for the people.
They're in a farm up in northern New York.
Yeah, where the cat went that I lost as a child.
Exactly.
They're all going to Minnesota ParaUnity convention. Sure, that's it. Are all you guys going to be there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get the discount? The team discount?
Yes.
We did. We did get the team discount.
You mean the apparel? Yeah, they get the apparel discount. Yes.
I love it.
So
Let's hear Scott's thoughts.
yeah.
Scott, you were closest to people of the Roanoke colony, so you tell us.
Yeah, you probably knew a few of them.
Yeah, I know him personally. Yeah. I think that the most plausible theory is that their colony was left the island and became part of the Native American tribes that lived nearby. That's one of the theories, and the term Croatoan that was found on the fence post and on the tree near Roanoke has some connection with the Native Americans there. And some testing, DNA testing was done with Native Americans who live in the area, and it was found that many of them had mixed European and Native American DNA. And they believe that may have been because the Roanoke settlers had joined their tribe at that point in time. So they disappeared off of Roanoke, but they didn't disappear out of history. So that's the theory that I think works best.
Yeah, the thing that came to mind, especially was because I thought I did research on Roanoke for one of the episodes of the Odyssey Files, but I'm not sure. But if we take like the story of the Anasazi and how they thought that their entire civilization just kind of poof disappeared. I think we talked about this last week. I thought where they had their tables were still set. All of their stuff was left in their places, but they were nowhere to be found. What it kind of came to be discovered was that they didn't necessarily just disappear or fly off with the aliens. Is like over the span of 25 years, they just kind of left and figured that they didn't want to carry all the stuff with them. So they just left it there. So, I mean, I think it's completely plausible that, Scott, especially, with your theory, that they just left, and probably not right away, but over time, maybe half the people left and at one point, and then the other half was left there to do their thing. And then they're like, what, might as well go with everybody else, and just left all their worldly possessions behind. Maybe they're the founders of the Amish.
Maybe.
I think everyone was kind of Amish back then, Mike.
It wasn't. Yeah, they weren't Amish. They were just living. Like they
That
were
was
just
just how you
living the
lived.
lifestyle.
Fine, ruined my joke. Go ahead.
Just saying.
It's all right. It's all right. Lauren, you didn't get a chance to go.
I mean, I feel like most everything's been covered by everybody else, but I do think, I don't know if any of you have watched the season that American Horror Story dedicated to this whole mystery, and I think that kind of amplified everybody's conspiracy theories about it. I mean, yes, there obviously were like people were thinking aliens took them way before the season aired, but I think, Dustin, like you said, these things have a tendency to take on like almost personalities of their own and just kind of run away from the plausible, reasonable theories. It's super fun to speculate, but I don't think any of it's really that true. And even if it was, how you gonna prove it at this point? Like, I don't know if there's really any piece of evidence that anybody could really come up with other than, Scott, what you mentioned, the DNA. I don't really know what else there is that can prove if anything specific really happened. But yeah, I like that there's like a whole legend behind it. I don't think it's true, but it's fun to think about it. It's like a riddle that nobody's ever really going to know the answer to. It's fun to think about it. It's a brain teaser, but yeah.
And it keeps that little part of history alive too, you know, which is really nice, because a lot of parts of history that, because there's no little mystery to it or any great gain that we are aware of or that we acknowledge today, it just kind of gets pushed to the wayside. So it's something that people still talk about all these years later, you know, just, it's kind of nice to still have that wonder.
Dustin, what you just said reminded me of the Truman Show, the movie.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Well,
I don't remember what reminded you of it, but.
Well, part of it was when he was a kid, he wanted to be an explorer or whatever. And the teacher, to try to keep him there, was like, right. Oh no, there's nothing left to explore. We know everything. Like there's nothing left to discover.
And every time he tried to be a travel agent, there was like some disaster happening somewhere. No, you don't want to go there.
Yeah, no. But I mean, it keeps the history alive. I mean, if we know everything, well, then what the hell are we going to do with ourselves?
Yeah,
we've got nothing to search for.
No, it's good to have questions, and it's good to question things that you think you know.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I know, and you can question me if you want. I guess it's the end of the show. So
yeah.
Can I just say how much fun this was? Like, I really appreciate. I know, like, I wasn't the sought after guest. I know I was just like the C-list fill-in guy. And I really loved being here and being a part of the team tonight. Like, you guys are great. I super look forward to meeting all of you in Minnesota. I think it's going to be fantastic, and I'm really thankful to have been a part of this.
You're welcome back anytime, Dustin.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I talk a lot. I'll try to, if I get invited back, I will try to keep that under control.
You can talk as much as you want.
Yeah, we enjoyed it.
I give you permission to do
You're very kind. Well, because I know Scott's a guy of few words, so I just thought I'd help out. But you know what I love about Scott? He's like Mr. Ed. He doesn't speak unless he has something to say, and everything Scott says was
Treebeard,
thoughtful, and the rest of us are like a bunch of clowns. Like, no offense, but like, listen to Scott. Like, he knows everything. He's been there. He's trying cool stuff. He's like talking about shaman things. We're learning stuff.
Shaman.
God bless you, Scott. Shaman Scott. God bless you.
Now hold on. That's not Mr. Ed. That's Treebeard.
Treebeard, we call him.
Whatever.
What?
Anyway,
I'm
Treebeard from Lord of the Rings.
Oh, I didn't watch Lord of the Rings.
Okay, well, we're ending the show now.
I'm a Star Wars guy. I'm a Harry Potter guy. Lord of the Rings.
Okay, I mean, Dustin, you have yourself a good night. All right, guys. Well, that does it for us. So next week we will maybe still have a show. I will be at my hotel in Duluth, but we can probably still do it. Dustin,
will I be here?
No, you're not coming till Thursday.
All right.
So
remind me.
Remind you? I better not. So next week, people, is the Minnesota ParaUnity Convention. mnparacon.com if you want to get your tickets. In fact, if you get them tonight, you can still be entered into the drawing for the William A. Irvin investigation with us. Maybe
discount. Don't forget.
No, you don't. maybe if I can rope Dustin into doing it, he might be there too. Well, he'll be there for the convention, but maybe for the investigation.
I'll be somewhere.
You'll be somewhere. All right, guys. So that does it for us. We'll be, like I said, hopefully back here next week. Stay healthy, stay safe. Get your vaccine if you haven't yet. We want to see you back here next week. Everybody, have a great night. This is our cutest wave. We just wave.